Okay. I'm recording now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there a way to do a vote in the Zoom?
Yes, yes. I already
Okay.
create a pool.
Can
I
I see that?
yes.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to launch it and then you will be able to see that. So I only create 2 questions.
Okay.
So here.
Oh, it's all in Chinese. Okay.
哦，请
Yep.
大家就是说，我现在有弄一个，就是说，请大家回答一下这个问题。So the 2 questions I have is what would be your projected highest degree? Okay. So the first one is postdoc and then doc PhD and then master, bachelor and others. I'll tell you the answer when we get everybody's vote. And then the next one, do you plan to stay in US after graduation? Yes, no, not sure. Okay. So those are the questions I created. Is there any questions you think it will help?
Who's in the US and who's outside the US?
Oh, okay, okay. Let me see if I can add.
Um, Another question would be who has H1B currently?
Okay,
Visas or status?
okay.
Yeah.
请大家先回答一下那个问卷，就是说，我们李律师想要了解一下大家的现在的情况，然后还有新的问题。
Daisy 你好，不好意思，安静怡，就是前面2个问题已经回答完毕了，但是我没有看到后面的问题。
后面我还没有放出来，
哦，好，谢
哎，
谢。
后面我还没有放出来，等一下，因为我前面的还没有结束
好，谢谢你。
啊。So can you see, like, I can't launch the second question until I
Okay.
finish the
So
first one. So for the first 2 questions, the highest degree they plan to have, 7 out of 14 people, the answer is masters.
okay.
So 8 out of 15 is masters, and then 3 out of 15 is PhD, 2 out
Hmm.
of 15 is postdoc.
Okay. I don't see any of those answers, but
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can, because it's still not done yet.
okay.
So after it's done, I will be able to share the result with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So 现在有2题问题，请大家先回答。就是我们现在有22个人嘛，现在有15个人回答了那个问题。Okay, I'm going to end the poll and then share the
Sure.
result. Okay. So can you see the result?
Yes.
Okay, so
So
postdoc,
yep.
2 out of 16, PhD, 3 out of 16, and then masters, 8 out of 16, bachelor's, 2 out of 16, and then 1 is others. And
Okay.
then do they intend to stay?
Majority. Hmm.
Yeah, 14 out
Hmm.
of 15, yes, 1 out of 15, not sure.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to start the second set of question.
Okay.
所以我现在要再问大家另外2个问题。Okay, let me find it here. 就是现在大家在美国吗？还是没有在美国？ 另外就是说，你现在有 H1B 的 status 吗？还是没有
And you can say yes if you have either the status or the visa.
？OK，就
Right.
是如果你有 H1B 的 visa，但是你还没有进来，你也可以回答 yes。
Okay. Take a moment for the answers to come in.
Yes. So now we have 19 people answer.
Mm,
19 yes. So actually, majority of people are in US now.
okay.
Yeah, and only one has H1B.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I need to share the, sorry, I forgot to share the result. So here's the result. Can you see it? Like first question.
In the US, yeah.
Yeah.
Majority 80%. Do you have H1B status? 5%. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Most don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm going to let you can share your screen and
Yep.
then, you know. So,
Okay.
先谢谢大家今天花时间来这边，跟我们一起谈这个问题。然后，我叫王真宇 Daisy Wang，Robert Lee，他是我以前我们是一起去念那个 Southern Illinois，然后我在那边念 PhD，他在那边念 Law School，我们在那边认识的。然后因为这件事，因为 H1B 这个出来，我刚好又有同学，就是我以前 PhD 的同学在教书的，也是拿 H1B，也是就是很紧张，我就想说，哎，问问那个李毅，他就是说有什么方法，那他也很热心的，就是说，哎，愿意说来跟大家就是简单的讲一下有什么其他的应变的方法。那先谢谢大家。那如果if they have questions, do
Yep.
you prefer we leave it till the end or we can ask during your presentation?
Let's leave it to the end for
Okay.
efficiency purposes. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I think I opened the Q&A in the chat,
Yep.
so we can answer the questions after Q&A.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 如果说他在讲的过程中有什么问题，就放到 Q&A 里面去，然后我会帮他整理出来。如果说你问的问题是用中文打的，我再帮你们翻译成英文。那如果中间我想说大部分人都是在美国嘛，所以我可能就不是说那么一个字一个字一个字的翻译。那如果说有问题的，可以就是在 Q&A 再问。
Yep.
So because I think majority of people are in US now, so I'm not
So
going to translate.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and if I told them if they have questions, they can just put it in the chat and that we can handle it from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
So
All right.
you can go ahead and
Whoops.
share your screen.
I will share screen. I will. Okay. All right. So how do I play this slideshow?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody see this? You guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for coming to this seminar. When I put this together, I guess it was September 22nd. And so that was, a couple of days ago, Monday and Tuesday, because the executive order came out at the close of business Friday last week, right? Going into the weekends, and it had 1 day notice period. And so I feel like the current administration was trying to sneak something through with this executive order, not being able to have comment periods and not able to give us too much notice. You might see in the news, BBC reported in the news that there was one Indian guy who was overseas when he got the notice for the 100,000, and he needed to apply for a visa to go back. Right, he was visiting his dying father, and he had to leave his father and get a $9,000 plane ticket to fly back the same day. To otherwise his he was afraid that he was going to get hit with this fee. So let's go a little bit about what this fee is all about, right? I'm going to just briefly introduce myself. I'm uh, immigration attorney Yi Lee. I am a graduate of Southern Illinois University Carbondale Law School in 2008, admitted to practice in 2009, 12 years in higher ed, F1, J1, 16 years of experience with non-immigrant student visas, family-based immigration benefits, employment-based immigrant and non-immigrant benefits. So I worked a lot in higher ed, and then now I'm doing full-time immigration attorney. So I kind of combine both areas as my expertise, and it kind of mix well together, especially for topics like this. Okay. All right. So the first thing is we're going to take a look at this executive order that was issued on last Friday last week. So the first thing that jumps out to you is a fee that is new that is attached to H-1B petitions. It's rather hefty. It's $100,000. And as you know, with a lot of fees and a lot of expenses, usually the intending immigrant or the beneficiary is not supposed to be paying that, right? It's the employer that has to pay. So this puts tremendous responsibility. Whoop, go back. Tremendous responsibility on the employer. Maybe it wouldn't hurt Apple so much. Maybe it wouldn't hurt Google so much, but it will hurt a lot of universities, higher ed. It will hurt a lot of small businesses that are looking for 1 or 2 H-1B employees. It'll hurt a lot of businesses where they can't burden this fee, right? So what does this fee apply to? Who does that apply to? Well, this executive order, I feel is poorly written, but I can extrapolate certain things from the executive order. It seems to apply mostly for people that are currently outside the United States, first-time petitioners, right? So if you're outside the United States, you're coming in, you're trying to seek the H-1B visa, your employer is filing an I-129 petition for non-immigrant worker. If it's filed after September 21st, 2025, you're outside the United States looking for a visa, I'm sorry, but your employer has to pay that 100,000, right? And if you read the body of the executive order, it also states that this order shall be 1 year in duration, right? At least 1 year in duration. With that 1 year in duration, they also put a very interesting subclause in there that says the Secretary of State shall also police basically the misuse of B visas for alien beneficiary. They're saying, hey, if the the cost of the H-1B is so high, we know that a lot of people might want to come to the country if they have existing B1, B2 tourist or business visas, and that they might try to work on that. Well, that's a violation anyway, right? You can't work and get paid on a B1, B2. But it's very interesting that they mentioned that. Okay, and what else? Well, certain people can get a waiver for the fee, right? If the employer can demonstrate that there's a national interest in hiring the immigrant employee, and that it does not pose a threat to the security or welfare of the United States, then this fee can be waived. But beyond this general term, we don't know exactly what the requirement is for a national interest waiver for the $100,000 fee. Section 2 talks a little bit about aliens outside the US, right? Outside. First-time petitions after September 21st, 2025, who enter outside the United States, who enter or attempt to enter the United States. Okay. All right. So, and then the section 4 is really interesting. I didn't highlight this, but they want to revisit what's called the prevailing wage determination levels for H-1Bs. As you know, the one H-1B holder, your employer, when they file for you, they had to do a LCA. They had to do either a prevailing wage or a wage that is set by some other Department of Labor standard, right? Not necessarily a labor certification prevailing wage that you have to file the ETA 9141, but it's something similar, right? That's how it's done in the past. But now it looks like they're really cracking down on the prevailing wage, and that might have implications to not just the initial applicants, but maybe all applicants, right? So this H-1B prevailing wage, that's something also that's very interesting to know because we don't know how that's going to go. right? What's gonna count as a determinative for the prevailing wage and what won't count anymore. Okay. So that's basically the executive order. We'll show you this PowerPoint. I think you'll get a copy of this, so I don't have to go through basically the leaked memos for USCIS, but they put that now on guidance at the USCIS website. USCIS has a guidance, and then CBP, which is the Custom and Border Protection, also has issued their own guidance that says anybody that's petitioning first time outside the United States, coming in the United States, must pay the fee. They don't, they can't come in. You won't get the visa, right? All right. Okay, so there's that. All right. This is the most recent published USCIS online guidance called the FAQ H1B. It's the frequently asked questions. It just, I feel like it doesn't really explain that much more in detail, but again, the $100,000, it applies, they say this only applies to first-time petitions after September 21st, 2025, and for applicants outside the United States, okay? It doesn't affect those that are previously issued H-1B visas, or those that are in the US looking for a change of status. Doesn't seem like that because they're in the US, right? Now, does it affect someone that needs a new visa overseas? That, typically you don't necessarily have to file an I-129 for a new visa, new H-1B visa if you're in valid H-1B status, right? You just have to do the DS-160. So, what about people looking to extend their H-1B status in the US by filing a new I-129? I don't think that they get hit by the fee because they're in the US. But again, this is so new that we haven't seen the rubber meeting the road, and so that makes it hard to kind of see what's included in what's affected by the fee and what's not. Okay, all right. So presidential proclamation, September 19th, 2025. Again, we talked about the 100,000 fee. Policy again is to focus primarily on first-time entries, those that filed after September 21st. Does not appear to apply for initial change of status applications, because you're in the US. The implementation details are evolving as we see more of these cases, and then it gets fleshed out. American Immigration Lawyers Association, which I am a member of, we are discussing this, of course, and then we're in communication with USCIS and the Department of Homeland Security to try to get some more clarity on this. Okay. Oh, and you can expect potential litigation on this, right? Because a lot of people are really, really angry about this onerous burden that they're putting on employers. And yes, there's going to be lawsuits, right? Whether this executive order is legal in the first place, because fees, setting of fees for something like H-1B should be in the jurisdiction of the legislature, Congress, not necessarily the executive or the president. So we'll have to see on that. Okay. Everybody tracking so far? Okay. Yeah. We're going to basically keep following this until we get more clarification. But if you're in the US and you have H-1B, do not leave, right? Do not do not leave. And then we're going to be exploring into some also alternatives that you could seek if you can't get that H-1B because the $100,000 fee is too much of a burden for your employer. Okay. Yeah, so I'm also waiting for detailed guidance from the Federal Register. Once it's published in the Federal Register, it's basically like law, and it makes things a little bit more clear. And then we have to abide by the new regs. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Who pays the 100,000? Employers filing new H-1B petitions for beneficiaries who are outside the United States seeking entry. They clarified this. This part is actually clear. It's only a one-time fee. When they first issued this proclamation, they said, "Oh, this is going to be an annual fee for every applicant," and then they clarified, "No, no, no, no. This is a one-time fee, but it's still pretty burdensome, right?" And the national interest waiver exemption. You can potentially, the employer can potentially waive the $100,000 fee by showing that employing this particular employee is of U.S. national interest and that it does not jeopardize the security of Americans, right? That's what it says in the executive order. Okay. Beyond that, we don't have too much guidance on what exactly meets national interest. This is not a EB2 national interest waiver, and I don't expect it to be, but it could be something similar. Okay. What appears to be outside of scope based on current info? Who are not affected? Well, H-1B extensions and renewals, workers already in the U.S., right? Everybody knows that you get H-1B, you get a initial portion in 3 years, and then you get a 3-year extension, and then usually you're done by 6 years, unless you have approved labor certification, which then you can renew every year beyond the 6, or you have an approved I-140. You're just waiting for your visa retrogression so that you can file for adjustment status. Then you can extend at 3-year increments, right? Existing H-1B visa holders are not affected. If you have a valid H-1B visa that was issued before September 21st, 2025, obviously you can enter, your employer doesn't have to pay, right? Change of status, probably not affected, right? Because you're inside the United States, not affected. Okay. So if you're talking with an employer and you're trying to either get them to sponsor you for H-1B, let's say you're on F1 OPT, you want to get hired, and what is the decision tree for the employer when they make a decision of whether to sponsor you for H-1B or not? First of all, we have to make a distinction. Is the beneficiary currently inside or outside the United States seeking entry to H-1B, right? I had an employer call me last week. I think it was Monday. He owns a small business, and he says, I have a potential employee that I want to hire. He's Indian national, right? The first thing is Indian national. And second, he's outside the United States. He lives in Dubai, which is the United Arab Emirates, right? So he doesn't currently have a visa to enter the US. Okay. All right. So at that time, before the executive order, I said, okay, let's set up a consult. Let's talk to him. This guy has H-1B. Well, he's an Indian, so he's going to have quite a bit of visa retrogression. I believe EB3 and EB2 for Indians are like 12 and 13 years for visa retrogression. So the first thing he needs is an H-1B. And since you're a private employer, you have to hit the lottery, right? So that's one thing. It's not guaranteed. You got to get the lottery. He's not higher ed. All right. And then, so the strategy is if he gets the H-1B, he can come as an H-1B and then come and work for you. And then you can file the labor certification and do the perm, right? Well, the whole conversation changed after Friday because he was outside the United States. There was no petition yet filed. So if they were going to file a petition, it would have been after September 21st, right? And not to say that it's also untimely because he's already missed the lottery period. And so there's multiple strikes against him, right? So I said, well, you don't have, you're not going to get the H-1B lottery until next March, first of all. Second of all, your small employer is not going to pay the 100,000 for you because this will be filed after September 21st, 2025. And you're currently outside the United States with no visas to be able to come into the US, right? So that just basically killed his petition. Employer did not, lost interest, employee lost interest. I guess that is the purpose of this executive order, is to get rid of new H-1B petitioners and beneficiaries, get rid of that interest so they can maybe find more American citizens to fill those jobs, right? Okay. And it had its intended effect, right? So that completely killed the case. No way for him to move forward unless he gets another type of visa, comes to the United States and files for a change of status, but still needs to hit the lottery, right? Okay. Extension or renewal or amendment for someone in the US, right? We just covered 100,000, most likely not apply. Change of status, likely not also. right? For someone to change their status from, let's say, F1 OPT to H1B, they're in the US, they should be okay, right? Even a B2 to H1B should be okay, right? They're in the US. Okay.
So E,
Yes.
because majority of people here are already in US, is there anything they should be concerned about, like for the new policy, where it's heading to?
Yep.
Because this is just the first thing they change, right? But
Yeah.
we see, like in the future, maybe people already in US will also be affected.
It may be. It's like the slowly ratcheting up of the pressure, right? First of all, you don't have to worry because we're only targeting people overseas, outside the US. Well, maybe after a couple of months, wow, we're going to get you guys in the US too, right? What I have experienced after the Trump administration is a lot of employers are getting, even before the proclamation, the executive order, they were getting really cold feet, petitioning for H-1B holders.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Labor certifications, H-1B extensions. Employers were asking for things that are not legally required, putting more burden on the immigrant beneficiary that are simply not required by immigration law. For example, like to extend your H-1B even within the 6 years, we want to see that you have your I-140 filed or something like that, or labor certification's got to be approved, or yeah, so all kinds of things that not necessarily it's ultra varies, it's outside the scope, but the employers are requiring that. And that's all because of the current administration putting a chilling effect
Okay.
on hiring immigrants, internationals, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think, yeah, so the next slides will be our major point for this presentation, right?
Yes.
What
Yes.
should we do
Okay.
as international students? Oh, no,
So,
sorry, there are some exceptions, sorry.
yeah. So exceptions, right? The first exception was stated in the executive order. It says, well, if you can show a national interest and security to the American people, then you don't have to, employers don't have to pay that fee. But it's not exactly clear what those standards are to meet, right? Now, if your employer is gonna file for a discretionary national interest waiver, um, then why not, right? Why not file for you can file for your own EB2 national interest waiver yourself, right? It's called a EB2 NIW, national interest waiver. I do a lot of these for my firm. I'm very successful with those. And those are very clearly defined standards, right? It's the matter of Donasar. It's a three-prong element, and you have to meet that your endeavor is of substantial merit and national interest. That's number one. And number two, you have to show that you advance that national interest. And then number three, you have to show that um, in an entire perspective, uh, it is okay for the government to waive your labor certification because of everything that you're bringing to this country, right? So that national interest waiver, EB2, could be an exception or a workaround, an alternative that you can use in lieu of H1B, right? Now, an I-140 EB2 NIW, even if it's approved, it's not a status, right? So you have to carefully maintain your current status if you want to wait for your visa number to catch up to file for your green card, right? So you got to figure out some other creative solutions, whether you can keep milking your F1 OPT. If you're STEM, of course, you get that 2-year extension, or you might be able to port over to a different um, status, right? Right now, change of status to H1B, not necessarily affected. Not yet, right?
Yeah.
So you can use that. You maybe an E2, maybe an O, maybe an L, right? So this brings up to the what this slide makes the perfect point, right? So the 100,000 really materially alters the hiring strategies of companies, especially small employers. Um, I mean, that's a real nice wage already, a six-figure salary that they have to pay right off the bat, and that's not even paying the employee, right? So
Mhm.
what's some alternatives? And Well, the Trump administration wants employers to do local hiring of citizens, but the audience here today are international students, right? You're outside or I'm sorry, you're uh, not a lawful permanent resident. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're looking to stay in the U.S. Okay, so you might consider uh, doing an O1, changing your status to O1 or L1 if you have executive or managerial experience outside the United States, right? Especially with Taiwanese entrepreneurs. You might have a foreign company that trades in Taiwan within the last 3 years. You might be able to take advantage of that, right? Another possibility, and this I actually did for a Taiwanese F1 student, is to file a change of status from F1 OPT to E2, right? You guys might know the E2 because E2 is a treaty trader, treaty investor status or visa that you can get for Taiwanese people, right? It's not available for mainland China, but it's available for Taiwanese people. And it allows you, if you invest in a monetary amount, usually I say about 150,000, 100,000 would do as well. Um, in the US economy to create your own business, you can basically have that status and be able to extend your status indefinitely as long as you're working on your business, right? So rather than an employer paying the 100,000, why don't you, if you are financially able to do so, invest 100,000, that same amount of money, and be your own boss and make a nice wage out of it, right? Make a nice return, and you control your destiny. So that's not going to be affected, right? The E2 is not under the executive order of the H1B 100,000, right? So at least you get to control your destiny. So that could be an alternative. Okay. Um, I put this chart in here so that we can kind of track, if you're more of a visual person, who gets affected, who doesn't, right? So inside the US, no. Outside, probably, right? Outside probably is going to be affected with the new petitions, the new visas. The start date was September 21st, 2025, so it's already passed. Everybody's in the new world now. It's a one-time fee. Um, and then there's potentially national interest waiver, but very, very restrictive, very, very burdensome. Okay. Yep. So workaround, EB2 NIW. We recently discussed that. You could potentially file the EB2 NIW and get that approved based on your endeavors. A lot of you may qualify because the prime education for an H1B and EB2 is about the same, right? Because employment-based second category either requires a bachelor degree with 5 years of working experience or a advanced degree like a master's degree or a PhD, right? Same way, H1Bs usually is a specialty occupation that requires a bachelor degree with 5 years experience or a master's or PhD, right? So it's like the same qualifications. So you might have the same base qualifications. If the H1B is too restrictive, you might consider doing the EB2 NIW because you probably already have the credentials, right? Especially if you're working on your PhD, if you're postdoc, you have some endeavor that is of national interest, right? I have a lot of EB2 and IW success stories with Taiwanese students that on their F1 OPT, they're working for a company. They got a master's degree. My last EB2 that was approved was for a Taiwanese guy that was designing um, hydrogen engines for airplanes. So my argument was his endeavor is of national interest because the number one polluter in the world is air travel. And what he's doing could have potentially great impact for our environment. And so his was approved, right? So it's a substantial merit, national interest. he can advance that national interest because he's doing that research now, and then they should waive his labor certification. Yeah. So right now he's applying for his green card and he's waiting for his green card. So he he didn't have to do H1B, right? So that's an alternative. Perfect. We just talked about the E2, right? You could be your own boss instead of the boss complaining, I'm not going to pay 100,000, fee to keep you. You could say, well, I can use that money, that amount, and I'll invest in my own business. And you could be your own boss. That's not subject to the 100,000 fee, right? An investment in your business is different than just a one-time fee. You can get that back. You can control your destiny. You can be an entrepreneur. Okay. And I've been to Taiwan a lot of times. A lot of people are very entrepreneurial in Taiwan and do very well for themselves. All right. L1A is actually a really good benefit. We just talked a little bit about that. Um, it's the international executive, right? The executive transfer. If you have been an executive in Taiwan in a business in the last 3 years, you can file for a new office in the U.S. under L1A. You can file for a change of status, saying I'm opening a business in the U.S. It doesn't even have to be tied the same business as your Taiwanese business, right? But that requirement is even less. You don't even need 100,000 or 150,000 to open a new office in the U.S. The L1A is also good because it's one of the few. The other being the H1B, it's the dual intent, right? It's a dual intent benefit. That means that you can continuously renew the L1 even when you're applying for a green card, right? If you get either through marriage or other type of green card application, you can continue while you're waiting for the green card. You can continue to preserve your status with L1A. Let's say you filed an I-140 on EB2 NIW. You can preserve your L1A, right? For E2s, it's non-immigrant. That's the only difference. It's non-immigrant, meaning if you filed an I-140, let's say national interest waiver, you're filing an E2 to keep status. You have to, on the I-140 for the national interest waiver, say, I am not adjusting status. I am consular processing at the AIT in Taipei, right? And that is so that you can always say, look, I have no immigrant intent, so please extend my E2 because I'm leaving the country to get an immigrant visa, right? But you can always change your mind, and when your visa number is reached and you have valid E2 status, you can always file the green card in the U.S. and notify the National Visa Center that you're no longer applying for the AIT consular processing. Okay. Other creative workarounds: EB1, employment-based first category. You're someone of extraordinary ability. You're a multinational executive. You're an extraordinary researcher or scholar. Yeah, those are creative, but the bar is really high, right? The visa retrogression for those categories are really low because not very many people get them every year, right? But I've successfully done several EB1 cases for clients, and I'm currently working for a client doing really high-end research from China. So yeah, EB1, that's a possibility. And the other benefits like O1, that's like outstanding abilities. It's a non-immigrant benefit. Um, I've got them approved for really very weird, unique occupations like dancers,
Okay.
psychics, and parachute packers,
So E,
skydivers. Yeah.
since majority of the audience will have master degree,
Hmm.
which one, like which one of these workaround works better for master degree holder?
Well, especially in the STEM field, I would challenge everybody or encourage everybody to look at EB2 NIW. That's probably the
E2.
best.
Okay.
E2 is always an option to maintain status
Yeah.
if they fall out the 3 years of the STEM
Mhm.
OPT. But
Yeah.
yeah, the, if the employer's not going to sponsor you anymore because of this burdensome fee, you
Yes.
got to find some way to stay in the U.S., right? And
Yeah.
not everybody can be married to a U.S. citizen,
I know.
right? But that gives me an idea. I'm going to create a dating site called Bonafides, and it's all about U.S. citizens
I've
meeting.
been having the idea for years.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
Yes.
they will establish evidence for the bona fides of the marriage. No public charge issues. It's going to be great. We're going to make a lot of money. All right. So where did I get this information? Well, the White House, you have the link here for the executive order. Reuters had some stuff, NAFSA practice guidance, USCIS policy, and CBP policy. I got the guidance from those as well. Federal Register, I'll be keeping an eye on those. Consular guidance, of course, is always helpful as well. Okay. And here is the link for our immigration firm website, my email.
And then 我跟他要求说，如果来听这场座谈的，如果说找他可不可以给大家一些折扣，那他就说啊，好啦，5% off。那如果说以后啊，就是以后如果大家有需要说有律师帮忙的，就可以跟那个跟李毅联络，然后就跟他说，哎，这个2025 H1B 就是表示说来参加我们这个座谈会，就看可不可以跟他，就
Yeah.
是他就可以给你打95折这
Yeah,
样。
so this was like a presentation. It's not attorney advice, right? It's not tailored to any specific client.
Yeah.
So if you do want a consultation, we can schedule that. I typically charge $150 for 1 hour consult, but of course we can use the promo code and get a little discount
And
for
then
that.
there's
Yep.
one question I just texted you.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me stop
Yeah.
share. Did I stop? Okay, hold on. Stop share. There we go.
Yeah, can
Current
you?
question,
I
currently in my 4th year of doctoral program, writing papers, teaching classes. Okay. How many publication citations require for EB2 application? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so I say don't focus so much on the numbers as what you're doing in your doctoral research. It highly depends on that, right? So you can be creative. It's not just STEM people that can get EB2 NIW. I had one, a dentist, right? And obviously dentists, they don't produce PhD type papers. But what he did was he fixed teeth for Americans that were recovering from meth addiction, right?
oh
Apparently, when you take a lot of meth, your teeth fell out, right? So then, when you recover from the addiction, it's hard to go to job interviews and find job when you talk and you have no teeth and nobody wants to hire you, right? So he made dentures for them, and so we made the argument that look, what he's doing is, people are recovering from hard drugs and they're being reintegrated into society. They need employment. They need to, boost the economy and boost themselves. So this is a national interest. And yeah, I got approved. Yeah. So that was very creative, right? So it's not just like the pure, science and technical and the newest airplane or the drones. Those get approved, of course, but other stuff too, right? So it doesn't depend on the paper so much. It depends on what you're doing and how you can frame it as a national interest. Now, what is most important is not necessarily even the papers. What's most important is if you can get industry, colleagues, supervisors, peers, professors to write reference letters meeting
yeah.
those elements, saying, yes, this student, what they're doing is of U.S. national interest, substantial merit, and they can advance that national interest. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Actually, that is my question, and thank you for answering my question. You just mentioned about we need to have a recommendation letter. So the recommendation letter, I need to have my professor they already know me, or I need to find the other professor and they didn't know me.
You need to find people that are familiar with your work to be able
Oh,
to write about you, right?
like my dissertation committee, kind of.
Yeah, like what are you doing? What's your research?
Actually, I mean, my major is a curriculum instruction, and
Oh,
right
okay.
now, I'm working on my dissertation. It's about like the technology, pedagogy, how
Yes.
to integrate the technology into the classroom. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done those in the past too, with like teaching like math, teaching math, and you can frame it like, for example, for the EB2 for math teachers, you can frame it as, the US K through 12 is really dumb with math,
Uh-huh.
and people are not interested. And you can also throw phrases that really kind of like, what do you call it in Chinese? 拍马屁, right? Uh,
Uh,
um,
uh-huh.
you for the administration, you can say we want to make America great again, and how
Okay.
can we make America great if all our competition's going overseas because our population lacks the math basis, and therefore this candidate has developed a new pedagogy for learning math that makes it fun and exciting, and it can be spread all across the United States, right? So then now you got an argument for EB2 and IW. That can be convincing, right?
Okay, thank you so much because I did a lot of research on Google and then they all mention about like I need to have a lot of publication, like the over like the 30 and the citation. So
So
I just worry about I didn't have a lot of publication.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of EB2 and IW I get approved don't have that many publications. When you're talking about publications, you're looking at EB1, extraordinary researcher, more
Oh,
like.
okay.
But I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a lot of publications, right? But you want to frame your endeavor into a one concise thing. Like you don't want to talk about a bunch of different things because you have to understand your audience. The adjudicator is someone that may have a bachelor degree that doesn't know anything about curriculum or instruction. And you have to convince them that what you're doing is of national interest. So you have to focus on one effective argument and then just drive that in. Okay. If you scatter too much, they just get confused and they might deny your application.
I
Thank
think
you.
the
You're
very
welcome.
important thing is to find a good lawyer. Yeah，因为我有一个朋友，他就是要我帮他写推荐信，可他就说推荐信不可以找认识的人。
对对，我看网络上也是这么说，他
对对，
们都要
你要
找不认识
找你要
的人。
找感觉没有关系的，但是你
That,
对，
实际上
可是
是认
那不认
识的。
识的人谁会帮我签啊？
but all my reference letters that I have for clients are their peers and supervisors that have a relationship with them, that understands their research. And I've not
Yeah.
had those get denied. They got approved. So I don't know where the internet had this thing. It doesn't make sense, and don't believe that.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit more questions. I think one says, how about EB1? How many
Mhm.
citations?
There's no magic formula for a number of citations. It's just
Yeah.
looking at the gravity of your work, right?
Mhm.
It's yeah. So with the EB1, it's a whole different standard, and I can kind of share that with you real
Wait,
quick.
there's another question though.
Oh,
If you can a state government staff member with an advanced degree apply for NIW based on public interest?
yes, of
Is there
course.
any work
It's
experience?
self-petition. You don't need an employer to petition for you.
Okay.
Sometimes, like if they're working for certain projects, that they would say, well, my employer will never provide me this evidence because they keep it under wrap because of the competitive nature of the industry or whatever. I said, well, then just, redact whatever that you can redact and just give me the framework so I can use it as evidence, right? So yeah, to answer your question, you can, as a government employee, yeah, you can do NIW by yourself. Is there any work experience requirement? Obviously, you have to be in the industry, right? I don't like it when it's a student that hasn't started their F1 OPT and they say, let me apply for national interest waiver. I said, my first question is, what's your endeavor? You know, what have you done in the industry? Well, I'm going to start next week. Well, you don't have any really experience in the industry, nor have you started your endeavor. So we can't really show that. Give it a year, right? Usually for F1 OPTs applying for EB2 and IW, I would say, especially for the STEM, second year, great. First year, you're just starting out, 6 months, cutting it close. First year, okay. Second year, excellent, the best.
Okay. Yeah. So any other questions? So if no questions,他今天讲的这个 PowerPoint 我会，因为大家报名的时候有填 email 嘛，我会把这个 PowerPoint share 给大家。那以后如果有需要 就是找律师，然后你们没有，你们就是说你们的 employer 没有合作的律师，就可以跟李毅联络一下这样子。那个 PowerPoint 后面也有。哦，another question.
Oh, okay.
There's a third year PhD student.
Okay. Hi, third year PhD student, STEM, master degree. If I want to apply for NIW, do I need to avoid traveling after applying? Does it affect OPT application? Well, this is more of a F1 question, right? Because you don't necessarily have to not travel after you apply for your uh, NIW. Keep in mind, this is not an adjustment status. This is just the I-140, right? You can file the I-140 in Taiwan. You can file it in the US. It doesn't matter. It's just getting the qualifying relationship approved, right? So the I-140, you file it, you can still leave the US provided you have a valid visa to come back in. I'm assuming you want to come back, right? Yeah. So make sure you have a valid visa, a valid passport before you travel. Make sure you get the signature for travel, because otherwise you can't come back. But once the I-140 is approved and you're waiting for your visa number, once the visa number hits, and you apply for your green card by filing the I-485, then if you travel, you abandon the I-485, right? So you don't want to travel after you file the I-485. The only exception being you can apply for what's called an I-131 advanced parole. That allows you to leave the U.S. and come back without abandoning your application, right? But the other thing is you have to be careful. Once you get the parole document, it sometimes it has a validity period, like it expires in 2 years, right? Had a client, very heartbreaking. She got her travel document. She didn't look at it very carefully, and while she was getting ready to go leave the U.S., the travel document was valid, but when she was trying to come back, it already expired, right? And the CBP, they just wave, smile at you, and let you go out. They don't tell you that it's going to expire. And so when she tried to come back, they didn't let her back in, right? And then she was married to a U.S. citizen, so they denied her green card application. Said she abandoned it. Yeah.
What happened next?
Well, so the I-130 was slated for adjustment status. So now you have to file what's called an IA-24 to transfer the decision to the consulate so that she has the consulate process back.
Okay.
hmm
Wow,
It's a whole
that's really
we
sad.
made her journey take like 1.5 years longer. It sucked. Um, any
One question.
Oh, visa bulletin. Yeah, here. Let me show you the visa bulletin. I w I was going to show you guys EB1 requirements as well, if you want to look at
Okay,
that.
yeah, if yeah, we
Okay,
still
okay,
have
okay.
9 minutes.
All right, real quick, real quick. Um, share. Okay, I think it's this one. All right, employment-based first preference. You're looking at you're saying, the other person was like, what should my research look like, right? So for EB1 extraordinary ability, there's like 10 criteria. You have to meet at least 3, but in practice, the more you meet, the better. So you're talking about um, research, uh, publishing materials. Well, um, first of all, they're looking for publication talking about your professional work, other people talking about your work in major trade publications or major media or journals, right? So if you're the candidate, someone else that's a peer has to publish and say, look, this candidate is really good, right? Um, Evidence that you judge the work of others, that's very important. Evidence of your original scientific, scholarly, artistic, athletic, or other contributions. If you're doing scientific, it's most likely research papers, presentations, symposiums, and Google, Scholar Docs and stuff like that. Evidence of your authorship of scholarly articles in major trade publications. This is different than this because this is other people talking about you. This is you talking about your research, right? So if you're looking at what kind of publications I should have, it's these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this could be publication, it could be something else. It could be like a patent or something, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be a paper. So these are the 4 elements of the EB1 out of 10 that can establish your EB1 eligibility. And that has to do with the research paper. Okay, so the next question was
Visa bulletin.
Taiwanese, right? Visa
Yeah.
bulletin. All right. Okay. So everybody looked at visa bulletins. It's fun, right? When I first started as an immigration attorney, it took me months to understand visa bulletin. But all right, this is family based. So unless you're getting married, we're not going to look at this, right? All right. So this is EB, yeah, EB2, right? Is second preference. Advanced degrees, exceptional ability. Okay. So you guys are employment based, second category, right? You guys are Taiwan, right? So you're in this category because you are not China mainland born. You are not Dalu, right? Okay, so we're looking at, you're of course not India, Mexico, or Philippines. So you're lumped in with all these other countries like Canada, um, Costa Rica, all these other countries. Taiwan's in there, right? So EB2, you just simply line up this chargeability in this employment-based category, and you get this number of December 1st, 2023. That means that people that have filed their I-140s on December 1st, 2023 or earlier currently has a visa number to file for their green card or to consular process, right? That means if you were to file your EB2 NIW today,
2 years.
it's almost 2 years, 2 year wait time. That's why it's so important if you want to apply for the green card in the US to maintain some sort of status like F1 or E2 or L or H1B, right?
But look at India.
India's bad. India's
For India right now, for
11,
yeah,
the
12
green
India's
years.
card
yeah, India has
level
because
that I'm applying, they have only looked at application that's filed prior to April 1st, 2013.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true because there's too many and the visa is retrogressed. All the visas are used up. It's not as bad as look at Mexico F4, right?
Is that you have
F4
to wait for 12 years
yes.
until you can get your green card.
Yeah, that's correct. So F4, right? Brothers of US citizens. For Mexico is the worst because look at Mexico.
Wow.
April 8th, 2001, right? It's pre 9/11, right?
Okay. So
So
E.
someone that files this is waiting basically 25 years, 24 years.
Wow. So what about spouse? Is spouse F1?
Spouse, if they're not studying, they're F2, right? If they're
Oh,
just
okay.
dependent. Yep. Yeah, and spouses if they get if the principal gets the green card, the spouse also gets, it's like that with any non-immigrant category, with the exception of B2, right? So if you get a E2, your spouse gets E2S, which stands for E2 spouse. Yeah, so like H1B for the principal, the spouse gets the H4, right? H4 usually sucks because you can't work on it unless there's a labor certification that's approved, right?
Okay.
So it's
We have
kind of useless anyway.
we have one last question. I guess
Oh,
after
okay.
this question will be done. Okay. So yeah, if I
Yeah,
my own company under OPT, can the
yeah.
company sponsor someone else for an H1B? If so, what are the requirements?
That's kind of the tricky. I've actually had one client, he was not able to get um a sponsor for OPT, so he created his own company for OPT, which is okay. You can do that for the initial OPT. You can't necessarily do that for the extension because you can't verify, right? I would say no to that. No to the H1B, because you're under F1 OPT. You're not a U.S. citizen. You have a company that at best can be about the length of 1 year of F1 OPT. Now you're looking for H1B sponsor to sponsor H1B. I don't think immigration would go for that. Okay,
How
so
about if can someone have OPT and then get an E2 to start a company, and then can they sponsor someone with for the H1B?
so a lot of times I get this question: can you self-sponsor? Can you create a company on E2 and self-sponsor? I say no, because the Department of Labor sees that as, if oh, the new questions on the labor certifications ask now, is the employer a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident? And that's disqualifying, right? Because they see that as a loophole where certain immigrants are very smart, right? You guys are very smart. Do your E2 and then say, oh, I need an employer or employee. I need to file labor certification. Guess what? That employee is me, right? You're just creating your own green card process. And a lot of times the Department of Labor comes back and says, no, you're not actually there's not actually a real vacancy here that you need to fill, right? We clearly see what your mechanism is to get yourself a green card. You're already E2, you already fill your position as E2, stay in the E2 lane, is what they say.
Okay,
right?
I see.
Yep.
Okay, he also, the last part of his question is, would he be eligible to apply for O1 visa?
Okay, so O1 is very interesting. Yes, and O is one of those non-immigrant categories that allows you to work as what's called an independent contractor, but you have to have what's called an itinerary in the U.S. That means that you have to be hired by other U.S. employers as an independent contractor for a term, right? So I had this in England, this famous psychic. So he allows you to talk to your dead cat, right? He can teach you how to do that apparently. So um,
I have contact with those kind of people recently. It's
yeah.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
he got the O to come to the United States to work with different um, psychic networks in the U.S. And the funny thing is, when I got his H1B, sorry, H1 O1A approved, he's like, did you get my O1 approved? I said, you tell me, you're the psychic, right? Uh, but no, we got it approved. So he had a good laugh about that. Yeah, so you could. It's but you do have to have an agent in the US. You have to have bona fide contract work. You have to show a schedule. You also have to show with O1s, you have to show like if there's a national governing board to your, you know, whatever your occupation, that they have to say, yes, this person is someone that's outstanding in our field, right?
Oh, I just saw the two questions.
Mm.
Maybe, I don't know if we can answer really quick. For newly undergraduate international students, low chance to apply E2. What is the minimum financial requirement?
It's all tied to the business. I've had
Yeah.
E2s qualify for 50,000. I've had E2s qualify for 900,000. It all depends. Like if you invest in a cleaning company, it's going to be a lot less than if you invest in a car dealership, right? So it's tied to the investment. Typically, the requirements about 100, 150,000. I had one case where they had invested 90,000, but they brought intellectual property, and we were able to evaluate the intellectual property to be over 900,000. So in the end, it was close to $1 million invested.
Yeah, but and also the investment doesn't need to be a lump sum, right?
It does not.
Yeah, yeah. So,
You can
and
use promissory notes, but I would say keep the promissory notes or future investment to less to 25% or less. You want 75% down on that stuff. You know, USCIS will not approve like a 10% down and then, oh, we're going to get some promissory notes and IOUs. No, that's not going to work.
okay, one really last question, because this person asked before like 9:50.
Okay.
So this person is in medicinal and organic chemistry area.
Uh-huh.
Ask which research area is more likely to get approval of EB2 and IW.
It depends on what you're researching and how we can frame it. It's all
Yeah.
about the script,
Yeah, I think
right?
it's all about how you articulate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can always say, well, this type of look at, I mean, isn't the president saying that Tylenol leads to autism? So you can use that against them. Say, well, you know,
Yes.
this Tylenol leads to autism is not good. So what I do is, you know, Chinese or traditional Eastern medicine has no side effects. You know, it cures all your ailments. This is in the U.S. national interest. You get it approved, right?
Yes.
Because we want to get rid
Yeah.
of Tylenol that leads to autism.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
it's
no-no.
just like when we
Talk
write a
to
lot of
talk to
when we-
Kennedy, right?
yes, when we write a lot of research paper, we need to articulate what's our contribution, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's similar to that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, I think we are running out of time, and you need to get up really early tomorrow. Thank you again for your time and answering these questions, and I really
You're welcome.
appreciate your help.
I hope it was good. I hope it was helpful. I don't know. You might do a poll that says, did you like the presentation or do you think it sucked?
So you got a lot
Oh,
of
nice.
thumbs up.
Okay, good. Thank
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, so我会
Appreciate you
把那
guys.
个今天的 slide 寄出去，那里面会有他的联络方式，如果以后有需要，大家可以跟他联络。谢谢大家，
Thank you. Bye.
拜。
Bye.